Hong Kong is freaking out over the coronavirus, while the Chinese economy takes damage, as the international community shuts the door on travelers from China. This is China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. The coronavirus outbreak is really not going well for the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, personally, I'm more concerned about all the people, mainly in China, who have gotten sick because the Chinese Communist Party tried to cover up the whole epidemic for more than a month instead of stopping it when they had the chance. But you've got to feel for the Chinese regime just a little bit. I mean, Chinese leader Xi Jinping even disappeared for a little while. That led to rumors that he was sick, especially after people began sharing a video of him dry coughing. There was also talk that maybe he had been purged, but no such luck. He's back, doing the usual, like hanging out with foreign dictators. Hong Kong has had its first reported death from the coronavirus. The patient was a 39-year-old man who had visited Wuhan and returned to Hong Kong on January 23rd. So far, at the time of this recording, Hong Kong has 21 confirmed cases of coronavirus infection. Although Hong Kong isn't particularly close to Wuhan, where the outbreak began, Hong Kong does share a border with mainland China. Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam was under pressure to block off all visitors from mainland China once the coronavirus began to spread. She initially refused, calling it discriminatory, which is dumb, but not any dumber than the real reason she refused. She doesn't have the power. Actions like this would be under the control of her masters, the Chinese Communist Party. And so Hong Kongers did what they've done since June of last year. They protested. Thousands of public sector healthcare workers in Hong Kong on Tuesday went on strike for the second day in a row to demand immediate closure of the city's border with mainland China to prevent the spread of the deadly coronavirus. But unlike any of the other protests over the past several months, this time Carrie Lam actually caved. Kind of.
The Chief Executive Council will invoke the Prevention and Control of Disease Ordinance Section 599. We will invoke the power to put requirements toward people coming from the mainland, including mainland residents, Hong Kong residents, and other visitors. They will have to enter into compulsory quarantine for a period of 14 days.
So Lam is still not fully closing the border, but there will be a mandatory quarantine for anyone coming from mainland China. Hong Kong has seen, shall we say, not a lot of enthusiasm for the Chinese Communist Party and its influence in Hong Kong. The fact that the coronavirus is now spreading within Hong Kong's borders because of a Communist Party cover-up, that's not making the situation better. Especially when people remember what happened during the SARS outbreak back in 2003. A Chinese doctor who had been treating SARS patients traveled to Hong Kong and infected more than a dozen people. Eventually, almost 300 people in Hong Kong died from SARS. That was the most anywhere outside mainland China. So people in Hong Kong are scared, lining up for hours, even sometimes overnight, to buy items like face masks and hand sanitizer, which are now running low. There's even been a run on toilet paper, sparked by internet rumors, especially when a higher up in the World Health Organization had this to say.
So we're sitting on the edge here. With a lot of hard work and also a lot of luck, we may be able to get ourselves out of this, but you know, the likelihood is not in our favor.
And on that optimistic note, the coronavirus is spreading around the world on cruise ships and airlines.
A cruise ship in Japan carrying nearly 4,000 people has found cases of the coronavirus.
Is that better or worse than just finding cases of corona? So far, 2 cruise ships are being quarantined, the one off the coast of Japan and one off the coast of Hong Kong. Passengers are not allowed to leave their cabins. And have you seen what most cruise ship cabins look like? It's basically solitary confinement on a boat. Obviously, the international community is concerned about the spread of the coronavirus. Many airlines are suspending or restricting flights to China and several countries, including the United States, and banning the entry of anyone who has been in China over the previous 2 weeks. Cathay Pacific has even asked employees to take unpaid leave. Well, they could just pass the time with a case of corona. But the travel ban is affecting Chinese students studying abroad. In a show of support, 4,000 students in Australia have signed a petition asking for a delay to the start of university. There are an estimated 100,000 Chinese students studying in Australia who are still abroad and currently locked out of the country. I can understand the concern of the Australian government, though. University students shouldn't have to deal with cases of the coronavirus. The worst thing university students should have to deal with are cases of corona. What's that, Shelley? Okay, I'll stop. The coronavirus is also causing China's already sluggish economy to stumble worse than a person drunk on... I said I wouldn't. Some economists are warning GDP growth could fall below 2%. According to CNBC, the 24 provinces, municipalities, and regions which have told businesses to cease operating until at least February 10th accounted for over 80% of national GDP and 90% of exports last year. Chinese stocks are also plummeting to the lowest level since that stock market crisis in 2015. But don't worry, Chinese state-run media are saying that GDP will definitely not fall below 5%, which means that it won't, as long as you believe the official numbers. The outbreak is also hitting Western companies operating in China. Tesla stocks took a hit after Tesla announced it would not be delivering a scheduled shipment of cars because of the coronavirus. So, to no one's surprise, Tesla overpromised and underdelivered. Of course, American companies that have already become less reliant on China because of the US-China trade war won't be as affected. So, as I've been saying for years, you're better off not doing business in China. And that's it for this update on the coronavirus. And as you may have heard me mention, an inside source at YouTube has said that YouTube is targeting coronavirus coverage as too controversial for advertisers. All of our episodes about the coronavirus have been demonetized either temporarily or permanently. It's not that we're trying to profit off the misery of others, but this is a form of censorship. If a news show can't generate income while reporting the news, it can't survive. YouTube would have shut down China Uncensored years ago like this. But fortunately, we have the support of viewers like you, who I call the China Uncensored 50-cent army. Through your contributions on the crowdfunding website Patreon, China Uncensored has survived to today, so we can let you know about important China issues that affect you, like a deadly global pandemic. So as a thank you to supporters, I answer a question from them at the end of some of my episodes. Today's question comes from Nightshade010101. Have you guys considered posting your videos to a different site? Good question. Some folks have suggested that the way to deal with YouTube censorship is to just get off YouTube. I'm definitely open to the idea, and if those of you watching have any suggestions, please let me know. However, despite all YouTube's flaws, it's still an incredible platform as far as video playback quality and viewer reach go. I want to reach as many people as possible with China Uncensored, and I'm not sure I could do that on another site. But I could be wrong, so let me know. Thanks for your question. And if you'd like to join the China Uncensored 50-cent army, head over to patreon.com/China Uncensored to learn more. Thanks for watching China Uncensored. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.